I appreciate you tuning in for another brand new episode. Don't forget, every Wednesday night at 8:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, I'm having a new interview, a new opinion piece, or some horror news for you to check out. So what are we talking about here tonight? Folks, this coming Monday, January 13th, believe it or not, is the 30th anniversary of Tales from the Crypt Demon Night. My all-time favorite horror film is turning 30, and it's wild. Absolutely wild to think about that, folks. You know, growing up, and I've talked about this on the show before, Child's Play was the first movie that I ever convinced my parents to actually rent from the video store for me to actually watch an R-rated film, and it was this like big thing. And I remember being absolutely terrified of Chucky. Andy Barclay is my dude. That's why I'm such a big Alex Vincent fan. And in the craziest bit of synergy here, I found out that Tom Holland, who directed the original Child's Play, at one time was attached to direct Demon Night as well too. You know, I grew up watching the Tales from the Crypt TV show on Fox. Some of you might remember that back in the early 90s, Fox actually got the rights to show reruns of Tales from the Crypt. These would be edited down versions. You know, we're not getting nudity. We're not going to get a lot of the language that was happening, but it was still enough to give you a good idea of what the show really was like. And I remember catching episodes like House of Horror and The New Arrival, which those are two of my favorite episodes, and loving them because one of those was about a bunch of ghouls killing a bunch of frat bros. Another one was about this psychiatrist who goes to the wrong house and ends up paying for his bad advice. But seeing a few other episodes that were centered around like serial killers and just regular people, I remember kind of being a little bummed out about Tales from the Crypt. And that's wild considering how much I truly love that show. All-time favorite TV show. Absolutely love me some Crypt Keeper. But I remember being bummed out when the tales weren't about anything supernatural, because honestly, I thought that with the Crypt Keeper being there, every single story was supposed to be about monsters and werewolves and vampires and ghouls and zombies and things like that. So whenever it didn't focus on it, I always found myself getting bummed out. And I remember in the early 90s watching an episode of Saved by the Bell. Saved by the Bell, y'all, like the original run of this here. And I remember there being trailers running for Tales from the Crypt Demon Night. And all I remember specifically from it at this point there, and we could find the trailers. I found like a link to one a while ago, and I haven't found it since. But I remember one of those trailers or one of those TV commercials having the Crypt Keeper in like an electric chair and doing his trademark scream at the end while the chair is going off, and like they're showing like the cast credits for the movie. But me being at that age, you know, a Tales from the Crypt movie wasn't really something that I was that interested in or really had a way of even following at that point. Because I would have been only about like 6 or 7 around that time, if not maybe five. But I think it was around 6 or 7 around the time that this was coming out. I did not see Demon Night in theaters. I didn't get a chance to do that, unfortunately, and that sucks. Looking back at it, your favorite film of all time, you don't get a chance to do it. But when it comes to horror, I feel like that adds a little bit to it when it's something that you have to discover on video, not on DVD, not on Laserdisc, but on VHS. There's something magical about looking back at the way that I found this. And I remember I lived in Australia at the time, and my dad had a friend who did have a Laserdisc player and would consistently, you know, like record these movies off of Laserdisc onto VHS for my dad. And there's a random day to where I was just going through a bunch of different videotapes, because this one was not marked at all from what I remember. And it was me just trying to find anything American, because we had a limited amount of American programming we got to watch while I lived in Australia. And I remember putting the tape in, and it had to be late. It had to be, you know, 8 or 9 o'clock, which, you know, that's late for the age that I was. But I remember putting it on, and that classic Universal logo and intro comes on, which is still my absolute favorite rendition of it because of Demon Night. And then immediately it going into the Tales from the Crypt intro. Something so interesting about that too, before I come back to this story, is the fact that we've had three Tales from the Crypt movies: Demon Night, Bordello of Blood, and Ritual, whether you count it or not. And Demon Knight is the only one of the three that actually uses the Tales from the Crypt intro to it. The other ones have great cold opens, and even Demon Knight actually has a bit of a cold open as well too, but Demon Knight is the only one that actually gives us the opening theme at the beginning. Bordello of Blood puts it at the end, but Demon Knight's the only one that gives us the beginning and end rendition of that. And I can only imagine, like, being back in the mid-90s and being such a big Tales from the Crypt fan and sitting in a theater, and suddenly you get this intro that you've been watching for a few years at this point on the big screen. Like, how magical could that truly have been, getting to do that? I lament that all the time. But what was so interesting about it to me was the fact that first 25 minutes or so of Demon Knight are very much demon-less. You know, we have the Collector, played by Billy Zane. We have Breaker, played by William Sadler. We get introduced to Geraldine, played by Jada Pinkett Smith. You know, we get our entire cast of characters and an idea of what the score is. But again, as a young kid who did like Tales from the Crypt, but liked the monsters and the ghosts and anything like that, those first 20-25 minutes when the Crypt Keeper was not introducing things were a tough chore to get through as a child, because it's like, I didn't know what was coming. And it was kind of like, I compare it to watching From Dusk Till Dawn not too long after that, because again, as a kid, that first section of From Dusk Till Dawn is not good. Now, I want to make sure you heard what I said, as a kid, because once you start to appreciate all that, obviously your opinions change. And my opinion on From Demon Knight as a whole, obviously it's my favorite film. From Dusk Till Dawn is one of my favorite films as well too, but I had to learn to appreciate the slower parts that didn't have monsters on screen for it. And when Billy Zane jumps out the window and does his whole fucking cowboy shtick there, and then slashes his hand and sprays the demon blood to bring the demons up, I don't know if I've ever been more terrified in my life in an initial viewing. There have been plenty of movies and TV shows growing up that I caught that definitely scared me, no doubt at all. And even in regards to Child's Play terrified the hell out of me. Had to sleep in my parents' bed after they rented it for me. But I don't know if I ever had such a reaction to a monster appearing on screen the way that I did with those demons when Billy Zane starts raising them from the ground. Scary, because as a kid, one of my greatest fears was somebody breaking into my house. I don't know why. Nobody has ever broken into my house before. Please don't do that. But as a kid, one of my greatest fears was just somebody breaking into my house. So seeing these demons crash through the windows and kicking open doors was terrifying to me. And the look of them, the makeup work on them is fantastic. Still, I think some of the best designs of any kind of demons that we've seen in like any movie or TV show over the decades. And it was helped out a lot by Billy Zane's wonderful, wonderful performance. And I'll talk more about this in the review that I'm going to drop on Monday. But Billy Zane to me is still like the best bad guy ever. He is the he is the ultimate villain, because you want to trust him. He has this kind face. He has the best smile. He has that smooth, sultry voice. He's sexy. Everything about him lures you into him. And that is the entire point of this. And, you know, I had seen Billy Zane maybe in a couple things prior to that. And again, we're not going to get on my parents here, but I had seen Tombstone prior to seeing Demon Knight. I had seen Back to the Future prior to seeing Demon Knight. So even if I didn't know Billy Zane at the time was from those, I had seen Billy Zane before. And not long after that, I saw The Phantom, which I love The Phantom. Saw Titanic, which everybody saw him in Titanic as well too. And I eventually saw Dead Calm. And learning that Billy Zane was this model, this beautiful, beautiful model, makes complete sense why you would cast him in a role like the Collector, because he's that guy that you want to love, that you want to look at and adore and think the best things in the world about, but he's an agent of hell, and he's ultimately trying to bring about the end of the world. And I remember as people in the hotel started getting taken out one by one, I just couldn't get it out of my head, this absolute feeling of terror and dread that I had had. I had never felt it as bad as I had watching Demon Knight. And, you know, Geraldine making it to the very end and coming out as the new key holder and getting away, Yeah, I didn't realize how powerful that would be as a kid, honestly, because, you know, being that age, you don't notice a lot of things like, hey, white heroes and black heroes. And so it was pretty revolutionary to have Jada Pinkett Smith, who I knew from Jason's Lyric at the time, showing up in this role and being the only person who makes it out alive. And now she's living the life that Breaker has had, to where she's going to live for who knows how long, trying to protect the one remaining key from the hordes of hell. Y'all, this movie has affected my life in so many different ways here. You know, you can't really see it, but like, I have a Demon Knight poster right there. You can see the Demon Knight poster here. You see I'm holding a key. I have 2 more keys behind me there as well too. I have the laser disc just a few feet away. I have my press kit a little bit over there as well too. You know, I've gotten a chance to talk to John Kassir about this movie before and how much this has ultimately meant to me. And Ernest Dickerson, being the director of this film, who has gone on to do so many great things, not just in the world of horror, but just in filmmaking in general. He is absolutely one of my favorite directors. Demon Knight just is always the film that I come back to whenever I'm trying to tell anybody really how to get into horror. And the purpose of this really more so is just for reminiscing, honestly, because, you know, this is not my review. My review is coming out Monday, and we'll deep dive way more into this here. But I am curious, y'all, for those of y'all that have seen Demon Knight before, and maybe you have a treasured memory for that, I want to hear those. Hit me in the comment section and tell me about what you remember from the first time that you saw Demon Knight, good or bad, honestly. I know while it's my favorite film, folks, I know a lot of you aren't a big fan of this movie, but I am genuinely curious about the overall perception here of this film and what treasured memories you might have behind that. Tell me that in the comment section, folks, and stick around because there's a lot more I'm going to be talking about Demon Knight later on this week. I plan on showing y'all off these 3 keys that I have, a little bit more here. We are going to talk a little bit about my press kit. We're going to talk about the novelization, and we're going to do a review for the film as well, too. I don't want you to miss any of that. Get subscribed to my Linktree so you can stay up to date with all of it that's coming out. You can do that by going to linktr.ee/tscarymovie. If you get subscribed to my Linktree, that's going to give you access to the YouTube page of video versions of the show, to your favorite podcasting platforms, to the audio-only versions of the show, my Letterboxd page for written reviews and movie rankings throughout the year, my TikTok page for short horror content, including movie news and movie premieres, my Twitch page for horror gaming, and my Fangoria shop page where you can enjoy a 20% discount off anything in the Fangoria shop. Take advantage of that, folks. Hit that subscribe button and stick around because I got more great Demon Knight content and a lot more reviews coming up for y'all soon. Don't go anywhere, though. My name is T. We've been talking scary movies. Stay scared.